Hi everybody, welcome back to Old Stories to Fall Asleep. Before we begin, if you enjoy history told through stories like this, please consider subscribing. And I have a small question for you tonight. Where in the world are you listening from? I'm always curious about the people who gather here for these stories. Are you listening from a busy city somewhere? Or from a quiet town nearby? Perhaps you're out in the countryside tonight. Maybe you're listening from somewhere in the United States. Perhaps you're joining from Europe, Australia, or Canada. Or maybe you're listening from somewhere entirely unexpected. Let me know down in the comments. I genuinely enjoy reading them. It's always fascinating to see how far these stories travel, and how many different people gather here each night. Now, let's begin. Long before Rome ruled the known world, the Mediterranean was divided among many peoples and kingdoms. No single power controlled the sea. A traveler could sail for weeks and pass through different cultures, languages, and laws. To ordinary people, this seemed normal. Most farmers rarely traveled far from home. Most families knew little about distant lands. Yet the Mediterranean still connected these societies. Ships carried grain, wine, olive oil, and metals across its waters. Merchants brought goods, but they also carried news and ideas. Among the great powers of the age stood the Greek cities, ancient Egypt, and mighty Carthage. Carthage controlled vast trade networks. Its ships crossed waters that many others feared. To many people, it seemed destined to last forever. And then there was Rome. At first, it was simply another city in Italy. Its people worked fields, traded in markets, and raised families. Nothing about Rome seemed extraordinary. Yet each challenge appeared to make it stronger. Each victory opened new opportunities. Neighboring communities became allies. Allies became subjects. More land brought more people. More people supported larger armies. Larger armies won more territory. The cycle repeated again and again. Most people never noticed a dramatic turning point. They saw small changes. A new road. A new alliance. A growing Roman presence nearby. Each change seemed minor. Together, they were transforming Italy. Slowly, almost quietly, Rome was becoming something larger than a city. The foundations of a future empire were already being laid. As Rome's influence spread across Italy, its victories began changing lives far beyond the battlefield. A farmer might suddenly find himself living under Roman rule. A merchant might discover new markets in distant towns. A traveler could move more safely along roads protected by Roman soldiers. Each conquest brought new opportunities. Rome needed allies, taxes, and soldiers. To gain them, it built relationships with neighboring communities. Some joined willingly. Others resisted and were defeated. Either way, Rome continued to grow. What made Rome different was not simply its ability to win wars. Many states had done that. Rome excelled at holding what it conquered. New territories were connected to the growing Roman system. Roads linked towns together. Trade flowed more easily. Communication became faster. Victories that might have faded away instead became permanent gains. Then came the struggle with Carthage. Across the western Mediterranean stood Rome's greatest rival. Carthage controlled valuable trade routes and commanded powerful fleets. For generations, it had been one of the richest powers in the region. The conflict between the two would reshape the ancient world. The wars lasted for decades. Families watched fathers and sons leave for distant campaigns. Merchants worried about disrupted trade. Cities waited for news from faraway battlefields. When the struggle finally ended, Rome emerged victorious. The consequences were enormous. Its influence now stretched far beyond Italy. Its wealth increased. Its confidence grew. What had once been a regional power was becoming a Mediterranean power. And as Roman ships crossed more seas and Roman armies marched into more lands, the city moved closer to a future few could yet imagine. Rome's victory over Carthage changed more than borders. It changed how people imagined the world. For centuries, powerful kingdoms had risen and fallen around the Mediterranean. Now a new giant stood above them all. Its influence stretched across 3 continents. Its armies marched through lands that earlier Romans had only heard about. Its ships crossed seas once controlled by rivals. The growth was difficult to comprehend. A traveler could spend months moving through Roman territory and still remain under Roman rule. Millions lived within the empire. Most would never see its edges. To many people, Rome seemed less like a state and more like the natural order of the world. As the empire expanded, roads spread outward in every direction. Some crossed mountains. Others cut through forests and open plains. They connected distant communities to a larger system. For merchants, this meant new opportunities. Goods could travel farther and more reliably. A trader in Spain could sell products that eventually reached markets in Italy. A farmer in North Africa could help feed families hundreds of miles away. The Mediterranean itself began to feel like a Roman lake. Ships moved constantly between ports. Grain, wine, olive oil, pottery, and cloth flowed across the sea. Prosperity followed these routes. Towns grew into cities. Cities grew wealthier. New buildings appeared. Markets expanded. Families found opportunities that earlier generations could hardly imagine. The empire was becoming more connected with each passing year. And because these connections worked so well, many people assumed they would always exist. The roads seemed permanent. The trade seemed endless. The peace seemed secure. Few could imagine a future without Rome. Yet the larger the empire became, the more people depended upon it. And that dependence would eventually make Rome's future matter to millions who had never seen the city itself. At the center of this vast system stood a simple promise. Rome would provide order. In return, millions would help sustain the empire. For many people, it was a bargain worth accepting. A merchant could load cargo onto a ship and expect it to reach distant ports. A traveler could follow Roman roads for weeks with little fear of hostile borders. A farmer could sell grain knowing buyers existed far beyond the local village. These advantages shaped daily life. They also created prosperity on a remarkable scale. Across the Mediterranean, ships arrived and departed from crowded harbors each day. Sailors unloaded grain from Egypt, wine from Gaul, olive oil from Spain. Goods traveled so frequently that people began taking the system for granted. Children grew up assuming full markets were normal. Families expected food from distant provinces. Rome connected them all. The empire surrounded the Mediterranean so completely that the sea often seemed to belong to Rome alone. Its influence reached deserts, mountains, forests, and coastlines. People from different cultures lived under the same government. Many never met a Roman emperor. Yet his decisions could still affect their lives. A tax might change. A road might be built. A military garrison might arrive nearby. Even distant events carried local consequences. As trade expanded, cities flourished. Markets filled with activity. Workshops produced goods for customers hundreds of miles away. The empire created opportunities that earlier generations could barely imagine. And because this prosperity lasted for so long, people slowly began believing something extraordinary. They began believing that Rome itself might last forever. The roads always seemed busy. The markets always seemed full. The empire always seemed strong. Few noticed that every great system depends on constant effort to survive. And far beyond the prosperous cities, small challenges were already beginning to appear. For generations, Rome appeared almost unshakable. Its power stretched across lands so vast that most people could never fully imagine them. A traveler could spend months on Roman roads and still remain inside the empire. Millions lived under its protection. Millions depended upon its trade. To many people, Rome seemed as permanent as the mountains. The city itself inspired awe. Visitors arrived from distant provinces and found crowded streets, grand temples, and enormous public buildings. Some had traveled hundreds of miles just to see it. Rome was not merely a capital. It was the center of a world. Its fame reached places where its armies never marched. Its influence touched people who would never see its walls. The empire's strength seemed impossible to challenge. Roman soldiers guarded frontiers that stretched across continents. Forts watched rivers and mountain passes. Warships protected important sea routes. The system appeared strong from every direction. For ordinary families, this stability shaped daily life. Children were born into a world where Rome already existed. Their parents had known Rome. Their grandparents had known Rome. Many assumed their descendants always would. The empire felt less like a government and more like a permanent feature of life itself. Like the sea. Like the changing seasons. People trusted the empire because it had endured for so long. Trade relied on that trust. Cities relied on that trust. Entire ways of life depended upon it. Yet history often changes quietly. Great powers rarely collapse in a single moment. Instead, small problems appear. Then larger ones follow. Most people continue living normally. Only later do they realize the world around them has begun to change. And in the centuries ahead, the first signs of that change would slowly emerge across the Roman world. For most people living in the Roman Empire, daily life felt predictable. That predictability was one of Rome's greatest gifts. Farmers followed the seasons. Merchants opened their shops each morning. Craftsmen worked in busy workshops. Children learned trades from their parents. Life was not always easy, but it was often stable. Across the empire, cities served as centers of activity. Markets filled with voices from many cultures. Goods from distant provinces appeared beside local products. A customer could purchase items that had traveled hundreds of miles. Such opportunities existed because Rome connected so many regions together. Roads linked communities that once felt far apart. Ships carried supplies between major ports. Messages moved more quickly than in earlier generations. Distance still mattered, but less than before. A merchant in one province could build relationships with customers in another. A soldier might spend years serving far from home. Families often heard stories from places they would never visit. The empire made distant lands feel closer. Roman citizenship also spread across vast territories. People from different backgrounds gradually became part of the same political world. They spoke different languages. They followed different customs. Yet many still shared a connection to Rome. This helped hold the empire together. For many families, the benefits outweighed the problems. The empire provided security, trade, and opportunity on a scale rarely seen before. Because this way of life lasted for generations, it began to feel normal. Few people stopped to wonder how fragile such a system might be. They assumed the roads would remain open. The markets would remain busy. The soldiers would remain on the frontiers. But maintaining a vast empire required enormous resources. And slowly, almost unnoticed, the costs of keeping Rome strong were beginning to rise. The first signs of trouble did not arrive as a dramatic disaster. They appeared quietly. So quietly that most people barely noticed them. Rome still looked powerful. Its cities remained busy. Its roads remained crowded. Its armies still guarded distant frontiers. Yet beneath this appearance of stability, new pressures were growing. The empire's borders stretched for thousands of miles. Defending such vast distances required enormous effort. More soldiers were needed. More forts had to be maintained. More supplies had to be delivered. All of this cost money. As expenses increased, taxes often followed. For ordinary families, these changes felt personal. A farmer might surrender more of his harvest. A merchant might pay higher fees. Small burdens accumulated over time. At the same moment, disease struck parts of the empire. Illness moved along the same roads and trade routes that carried prosperity. Communities lost workers. Families lost loved ones. Fields went unworked. The consequences reached far beyond individual households. Fewer workers meant lower production. Lower production meant less wealth. The empire remained strong, but maintaining that strength became harder. Meanwhile, pressure increased along the frontiers. Groups beyond Roman borders watched the empire closely. Some traded peacefully. Others raided when opportunities appeared. Frontier soldiers spent more time responding to threats. Resources flowed toward defense. The challenges were manageable at first. None seemed large enough to threaten Rome. Most citizens continued their daily routines. Markets still opened. Ships still sailed. Children still grew up believing Rome would last forever. Yet the problems of one generation often become the burdens of the next. And as these pressures slowly accumulated, the foundations of Roman stability began to weaken. As pressure grew across the empire, another problem emerged from within. Rome's political stability began to weaken. For generations, strong leadership had helped hold the vast empire together. Now that stability became harder to maintain. Emperors came and went with increasing speed. Some ruled only briefly before being replaced. Others were removed by rivals or ambitious generals. Sometimes several men claimed the title at once. For ordinary people, this uncertainty created anxiety. A farmer might not care who ruled in distant Rome. But he cared if taxes changed. He cared if soldiers arrived demanding supplies. He cared if conflict disrupted local trade. Political struggles often produced consequences far from the capital. When rivals fought for power, armies had to be raised. When armies were raised, resources were consumed. When resources became scarce, ordinary families felt the burden. Civil wars created additional problems. Soldiers who should have guarded frontiers were sometimes called elsewhere. Border defenses weakened. Raids became more frequent. Local communities felt less secure. Merchants grew cautious. The economy suffered. Each crisis created new challenges. Each challenge made the next crisis harder to solve. Yet Rome remained standing. Its cities were wealthy. Its people had survived difficulties before. Many believed they would survive these troubles as well. And for a time, they were correct. The empire endured. But the constant cycle of political conflict was changing Rome. Trust weakened. Resources dwindled. The government spent more energy solving immediate problems. Long-term stability became harder to protect. Most people could not see where this path would lead. And in the years ahead, the empire would face challenges far greater than political rivalries alone. By the 3rd century, the pressures facing Rome were beginning to collide. Problems that once seemed separate started feeding one another. Political instability weakened government. Military expenses drained resources. Economic troubles spread through many regions. The empire entered one of the most difficult periods in its history. For ordinary people, the changes felt gradual at first. Prices became less predictable. Coins carried less value than before. Merchants struggled to plan for the future. Families found it harder to afford everyday necessities. Because the empire was so connected, disruptions traveled along the same routes as prosperity. Trade slowed. Confidence weakened. Communities became more cautious. At the same time, threats appeared along multiple frontiers. Roman armies were forced to respond again and again. Every response required more money, supplies, and soldiers. The burden continued to grow. In some areas, people began questioning whether the government could still protect them. For generations, Rome's strength had inspired confidence. Now confidence itself was becoming harder to maintain. Yet even during these difficult years, the empire did not collapse. Cities remained populated. Markets still operated. Farmers continued working their fields. Life went on because it had to. Most people focused on surviving the challenges immediately before them. They were not thinking about the fall of Rome. They were thinking about feeding their families, paying taxes, finding work, getting through another year. That is often how great historical changes unfold. People living through them rarely recognize their full significance. Yet those hardships were slowly reshaping the empire. Rome had survived a crisis that might have destroyed a weaker state. But survival came with a cost. And the solutions that followed would transform the empire in unexpected ways. After decades of crisis, Rome needed stability more than ever. Without it, the empire might not survive. Leaders understood that simply winning battles would not be enough. The deeper problems had to be addressed. New reforms began reshaping the Roman world. The government became larger and more organized. Officials took a greater role in managing distant provinces. Military forces were restructured. Defenses were strengthened. The goal was simple: make the empire easier to govern and easier to protect. For many ordinary people, these changes brought mixed results. Greater stability offered security. But security came at a price. Taxes remained heavy. Government oversight increased. More resources were needed to support the growing administrative system. Families often felt those demands directly. Yet the reforms achieved something important. They helped prevent complete collapse. The empire regained a measure of order. Trade recovered in many areas. Cities continued functioning. Frontiers became more secure. For the first time in years, many people felt hopeful again. Rome had survived another great challenge. But the empire emerging from the crisis looked different from the one before it. It was less flexible, more centralized, more dependent on complex systems of administration and taxation. These changes solved immediate problems. They also created new realities. The Roman world was adapting to survive. Most citizens welcomed stability wherever they could find it. After years of uncertainty, that stability mattered. Yet while the empire recovered, another transformation was quietly taking shape. The center of Roman power was beginning to shift. And that shift would eventually change the course of Roman history itself. As the empire adapted, its center of gravity slowly began moving eastward. This change did not happen overnight. Most people barely noticed it at first. Rome remained famous throughout the known world. Its name still carried enormous prestige. Yet some of the empire's wealthiest and most active regions lay far from the old capital. Trade flourished across the eastern Mediterranean. Major cities attracted merchants from every direction. Goods arrived from Africa, Asia, and Europe. The flow of commerce seemed endless. Recognizing these realities, Emperor Constantine established a new capital on the site of an ancient city called Byzantium. It would become Constantinople. Its location was remarkable. Trade routes converged there. Important waterways passed nearby. Armies could move more efficiently between regions. The city quickly grew in importance. For ordinary people, the consequences were gradual. More officials traveled east. More investment flowed toward eastern provinces. New opportunities appeared around the growing capital. Merchants followed commerce. Workers followed opportunity. Families followed both. Rome remained influential, but it was no longer the empire's only center. The Roman world was becoming more complex. In many ways, this strengthened the empire. A second great capital provided flexibility and security. If one region struggled, another could help sustain the system. Yet the shift also revealed an important reality. The empire was no longer the unified world many people imagined. Different regions faced different challenges. Different priorities emerged. Over time, these differences would become increasingly important. Most citizens paid little attention to such developments. They focused on work, family, and daily concerns. But history was slowly changing direction. And beyond the frontiers, events were unfolding that would soon place new pressures on both halves of the Roman world. Far from the great cities, life along Rome's frontiers felt very different. Here, the empire met the unknown. Rivers marked borders. Forests stretched beyond Roman control. Open plains reached toward distant horizons. For soldiers stationed there, the frontier was a place of constant vigilance. Watchtowers overlooked important crossings. Forts guarded roads and rivers. Patrols moved through regions where small incidents could quickly become larger problems. Yet the frontier was not simply a line dividing friends and enemies. It was also a place of trade and exchange. Merchants crossed borders carrying goods. Travelers shared news from distant lands. Some communities had dealt with one another for generations. Many people on both sides wanted peace. For local families, stability mattered more than politics. A farmer near the frontier cared about good harvests. A trader cared about safe roads. Parents cared about raising children without fear. But conditions beyond Rome's borders were beginning to change. Movements among distant peoples created pressure that slowly spread across Europe. Communities relocated. Alliances shifted. Competition for land increased. Small migrations became larger ones. The effects traveled outward like ripples in water. Eventually those ripples reached Rome's frontiers. Border officials noticed growing numbers of newcomers. Military commanders watched events carefully. What began as a distant development was becoming a local concern. Most people inside the empire knew little about these changes. Life continued much as before. Markets opened. Ships sailed. Farms produced food. Yet along the frontier, signs of a larger transformation were becoming visible. New peoples were approaching Roman borders. They were not coming to destroy an empire. Most were simply searching for safety, land, and opportunity. But their arrival would set events in motion that neither they nor the Romans could fully control. The people approaching Rome's borders were not a single army. They were entire communities. Families traveled together. Children walked beside wagons. Elders carried what possessions they could. Many were searching for safety rather than conquest. Far beyond the Roman frontier, powerful forces were reshaping the world. Among them were the Huns. Their movements across the Great Plains created fear and uncertainty among neighboring peoples. Communities that had lived in one place for generations suddenly felt pressure to move. And when one group moved, others often followed. The result was a chain reaction stretching across vast distances. Eventually, many of these migrants reached Roman borders. Some hoped to settle peacefully within the empire. Others sought protection from dangers behind them. To Roman officials, the situation posed a difficult challenge. The empire needed workers, farmers, and soldiers. New arrivals could provide all three. Yet welcoming large numbers of people also carried risks. Food had to be supplied. Land had to be found. Order had to be maintained. When these tasks were handled poorly, tensions emerged. Promises were broken. Trust weakened. Misunderstandings grew into conflicts. For ordinary people, the consequences were immediate. Local communities worried about resources. New arrivals worried about survival. Both sides feared uncertainty. Neither side fully understood what would happen next. Yet the migrations continued. The movement of entire populations could not be easily stopped. What had begun far beyond Rome's borders was now reshaping life inside the empire itself. Still, most Romans believed their state would endure. Rome had survived wars, invasions, and crises before. Surely it would survive this challenge as well. But history is often changed by events that seem manageable at first. And soon, one of the most famous cities in the world would experience a shock few thought possible. For centuries, the city of Rome had seemed untouchable. Generations had grown up believing its walls were secure. Its name alone inspired respect across the known world. Even people who had never seen the city imagined it as the heart of civilization. Then the unimaginable happened. In the year 410, a Gothic army led by Alaric entered Rome. The city was sacked. The event lasted only a few days. Yet its impact echoed for generations. The physical damage mattered. But the psychological shock mattered even more. Rome had been invaded before in distant centuries. Few people remembered those events. To most citizens, the city seemed eternal. Now that belief was broken. News spread quickly across the empire. People struggled to understand what had happened. If Rome itself could be entered by a foreign army, what did that say about the empire's future? For ordinary families, fear and uncertainty followed. Merchants worried about stability. Officials worried about security. Communities wondered whether old assumptions could still be trusted. Yet the empire did not immediately collapse. Markets reopened. Farms continued producing food. Trade continued moving across many regions. Life carried on, much as it always had. That is one reason Rome's decline can be difficult to see. Even after such a dramatic event, daily life often continued. Most people still focused on work and family. They still planned for the future. Yet something important had changed. The illusion of invincibility was gone. The empire remained powerful. But confidence had been shaken. And once confidence weakens, every new problem feels larger than the last. The sack of Rome did not end the Western Empire. It revealed how vulnerable that empire had become. In the years that followed, those vulnerabilities would become increasingly difficult to ignore. The sack of Rome revealed how vulnerable the Western Empire had become. But vulnerability alone does not destroy an empire. The deeper problem was money. For centuries, Rome's power depended on a simple exchange. Taxes funded armies. Armies protected provinces. Provinces generated more taxes. As long as that cycle continued, the empire remained strong. Now the cycle was beginning to break. Across the western provinces, Roman authority weakened. Some regions were lost. Others became difficult to control. At first, these losses seemed manageable. But each lost territory carried consequences. A lost province meant fewer taxpayers. Fewer taxpayers meant less revenue. Less revenue meant fewer soldiers. Fewer soldiers meant weaker defenses. And weaker defenses made future losses more likely. The process fed itself. What looked like separate problems were actually connected. A military defeat became a financial problem. A financial problem became a military problem. The cycle repeated year after year. For ordinary people, these changes appeared in everyday life. Taxes remained heavy. The government desperately needed resources. Farmers surrendered larger portions of their harvests. Merchants faced increasing burdens. Yet despite these sacrifices, the empire struggled to meet its obligations. The situation resembled a great ship taking on water. From a distance, it still appeared impressive. But below the surface, the damage continued spreading. Many citizens still believed Rome would recover. After all, it always had. For generations, every crisis had eventually passed. Yet this crisis was different. The empire was no longer merely fighting enemies. It was fighting mathematics. Every year, there was less money to defend more territory. And eventually, the Western Empire could no longer protect everyone who depended upon it. Eventually, the Western Empire faced a problem no government wants to confront. There were not enough resources for everyone. For centuries, people had relied on Rome for protection. If raiders appeared, Roman soldiers would come. If roads needed guarding, Roman soldiers would come. That expectation helped hold the empire together. Now it was becoming harder to fulfill. The army still existed. Many soldiers fought bravely. But there was less money to pay them. Less money to equip them. Less money to station them across a vast territory. The consequences appeared far from the imperial court. A village might request protection and receive none. A community might face a raid alone. A merchant could no longer assume every road was safe. For ordinary people, confidence began to shift. Not all at once, but little by little. When Rome could not help, people looked elsewhere. They turned toward wealthy landowners, local commanders, regional leaders, men who lived nearby and could respond quickly. Protection became local. Power became local. The change was subtle, but important. For centuries, Rome had connected millions through a single system. Now that system was weakening. In its place, smaller networks were emerging. People depended more on personal relationships than distant institutions. A farmer trusted the Lord whose guards protected nearby fields. More than an emperor hundreds of miles away. Most people were not trying to build a new society. They were simply trying to stay safe. Yet history is often shaped by practical decisions. And across Western Europe, countless ordinary people were making the same choice. They were placing their trust closer to home. Without realizing it, they were helping create the foundations of the medieval world that would follow Rome. And as power drifted away from the center, the emperors themselves became increasingly unimportant. As power drifted away from the center, the emperors of the West became less important. The title still carried prestige. The history behind it was immense. For centuries, emperors had ruled a world-spanning empire. Their authority reached from Britain to North Africa. Their decisions affected millions. Now much of that power existed only in memory. Real influence increasingly belonged to military commanders and regional leaders. They controlled armies. They controlled resources. And they often determined who sat on the throne. By the year 476, the situation had become impossible to ignore. The emperor was a young boy named Romulus Augustulus. His name sounded grand. One part honored Rome's legendary founder. The other honored its first emperor. Yet the title carried far more weight than the office itself. The empire he supposedly ruled had already been slipping away for generations. Then a military leader named Odoacer removed him from power. There was no great final battle. No dramatic last stand. No single moment when the world suddenly changed. The event was almost ordinary. And that was precisely the point. The Western Roman Empire did not die in a blaze of glory. It faded. The removal of Romulus was less a collapse than a confirmation. A recognition that the old system no longer functioned. The boy emperor was not the cause of Rome's fall. He was the final symbol of it. For ordinary people, life continued much as before. Fields still needed tending. Goods still needed selling. Families still needed feeding. Yet something remarkable had happened. For the first time in nearly 5 centuries, Western Europe no longer had a Roman emperor. An institution that had seemed permanent had quietly disappeared. And only then did people begin discovering what the world looked like without Rome. And only then did people begin discovering what the world looked like without Rome. The change was not immediate. The roads did not vanish overnight. The cities did not suddenly empty. Many Roman buildings continued standing exactly where they always had. At first glance, the world looked familiar. Yet small differences began appearing everywhere. Without a powerful Western government coordinating vast territories, connections slowly weakened. Some roads received less maintenance. Bridges fell into disrepair. Travel became slower in certain regions. Journeys that once felt routine became more difficult. Trade changed as well. For centuries, merchants had relied on a network stretching across the Mediterranean. Goods moved between distant provinces with remarkable regularity. Now some of those connections became less dependable. Imported products grew rarer. Prices often rose. Choices became more limited. The consequences reached ordinary households. A craftsman might struggle to obtain materials from distant markets. A merchant might lose customers hundreds of miles away. A family might find fewer goods available than their grandparents once enjoyed. None of these changes seemed world-shaking on their own. Yet together they transformed daily life. The Roman system had connected millions of people across enormous distances. When those connections weakened, the world felt larger again. More distant. More local. Communities increasingly depended upon nearby resources and nearby relationships. The habits of centuries were slowly changing. For many people, this meant a simpler life. Sometimes a harder life. Often a more isolated one. The empire that had once surrounded the Mediterranean like a giant web was gone. But history rarely leaves empty spaces. As old Roman institutions faded, new powers were already stepping forward to take their place. and the future of Europe would be shaped by those who inherited Rome's world. As old Roman institutions faded, new powers stepped forward to fill the space they left behind. The Western Empire was gone. But the people who lived within its former borders had not disappeared. They still needed laws, protection, trade, and some form of government. Across Europe, new kingdoms emerged from the lands Rome once controlled. The Franks established themselves in Gaul. The Visigoths ruled much of Spain. The Ostrogoths governed Italy for a time. To Roman citizens, these rulers might once have seemed like outsiders. Now they were becoming the new leaders of Europe. Yet something remarkable happened. These kingdoms did not simply erase Rome. In many ways, they copied it. They used Roman officials, Roman laws, Roman roads, Roman cities. The old empire remained useful, even after it was gone. Another institution also survived the fall: the Christian Church. As emperors disappeared from the West, bishops and monasteries remained. They preserved books, maintained records, and carried Roman traditions into a new age. For ordinary people, these continuities mattered. The world was changing, but not everything was lost. Pieces of Rome survived almost everywhere. In the language people spoke, in the cities where they lived, in the laws that governed them, in the faith many followed. The empire itself had vanished, yet its influence remained woven into everyday life. The new medieval world was not built upon empty ground. It was built upon Roman foundations, stone by stone, generation by generation. And as Europe slowly transformed, one truth became increasingly clear. Rome had fallen. But Rome had not truly disappeared. The kingdoms that replaced the empire continued using Roman roads. They governed from Roman cities. They inherited Roman laws, Roman traditions, and Roman ideas. Even people who never called themselves Romans were living in a world shaped by Rome. That is one of history's great ironies. The empire vanished, yet its influence remained. Centuries passed. Kings rose and fell. New nations appeared. Still, traces of Rome endured. Sometimes in stone, sometimes in language, sometimes in ideas. The Roman Empire had once seemed eternal. In one sense, it was not. Its armies disappeared. Its emperors vanished. Its borders faded from maps. Yet in another sense, Rome never completely left. The world simply carried pieces of it forward. Perhaps that is why the fall of Rome remains such a powerful story. It was not merely the end of an empire. It was the transformation of a civilization. The old Roman world slowly became something new. A new Europe. A new age. Built by people who inherited far more from Rome than they realized. And so the story of Rome does not truly end with its fall. It continues in the centuries that followed. in the cities that survived, in the roads that remained, in the institutions that endured, and in the memory of an empire so vast, so wealthy, and so powerful that many believed it would last forever. Yet even Rome changed. And that quiet transformation became one of the great turning points in human history. And with that, tonight's story comes to an end. The Roman Empire is gone now. Its emperors, armies, and great ambitions belong to history. Yet for 1,000 years, Rome shaped the lives of millions. It connected distant lands, built cities that still stand today, and left marks upon the world that time could never fully erase. Perhaps somewhere in the story, among the emperors and armies, the roads and cities, there was also a reminder. The people who lived through these events did not know they were living through history. They were farmers tending fields, merchants opening shops, parents raising children, much like people today. And like all generations before them, they watched one world slowly become another. Thank you for spending part of your evening here. Wherever you are listening from tonight, I hope you enjoyed our journey through the final centuries of Rome. Now, as the empire fades into the distance, and the ancient roads grow quiet once more, it's time to let the story rest. Take care of yourself. Get some well-earned sleep. And perhaps tomorrow night, we'll wander together into another chapter of the past. Good night.